Okay, welcome to the January 14th meeting. And before we get started, I would like to read a notice of recording. Please note that tonight's meeting is recorded and broadcast on the town of Barnstable's government access channel and in accordance with NGL Chapter 30, Section 20. I must inquire whether anyone is taping this meeting, and if so, please make their presence known. No. With that, I'd like to welcome the Shellfish Committee for Constable and the public. Okay, first order of business will be approval of the minutes for December 10th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for December 10th, 2025.
I'll second it.
Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? Okay, so moved. I have no comment.
Would you like to invite Wayne to speak outside of the agenda?
Yes, I think that would be a good idea.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Wayne.
So I'm Wayne Kirker from Hyannis Marina, and Egg Island now has reformed itself from what it was for a long time. It's a beautiful beach, and I'm seeing more and more boats there every weekend. So my customers are loving it, and my thought, there was a time when I used to make a donation to the for seed, and I'm wondering what type of seed would be right for out there. If you guys, I'd like to know if you'd like me to do it, and I'm not talking about a fortune, but to get something started here, and because I'd be willing, given that my customers love it, I feel as though I could make a donation, and then they could ultimately be out there shellfishing and enjoying it even more. And so I don't know a lot about. I've only shellfished from recreationally, and that was before you even needed a license. So it's been a little while. Or I did it illegally. I'm not sure.
Yeah, there's steamers there naturally. I think quahogs would be good. Those are the two fish that are in season.
Quahog and soft shell.
Yeah, there's some soft shells there still now, but
Who are your customers?
The slip customers at Hyannis Marina.
Oh, is that Yarmouth?
no.
Is that
Hyannis Marina
considered,
is,
it's like.
It cuts
they got it
over.
Right on the cusp, or right in
Bar-
the
it's
middle.
on-
yeah, it's in both towns. It's in Yarmouth and Barnstable. Hyannis Marina is.
South side.
But in any case, Egg Island has become like quite a resource, and my thought was if we could get it populated with some shellfish, in the course of time, people would just really be enjoying that.
If that is, it is Yarmouth and Hyannis?
Hyannis Marina is in the two towns, nothing to do with
Oh,
Egg Island.
Egg
Harbor is in Louis
Egg Island is all in the town of Barnstable.
Yeah.
At least it was until it grew. I don't know if it grew in Yarmouth at all. I do know that it separated itself from Great Island, so the people that were out there squawking that
Coming out
human
of the
beings are having fun, they no longer have
like harbor.
the ability to squawk from a private property point of view.
Yeah, that's true.
So the public is going out there, the public's enjoying it, and I just want to know what type, and now I know it would be quahogs and soft shell.
I would say really just quahogs. It's
Yeah.
really hard to propagate the soft shells. He's just saying that they
They're there
exist
naturally.
there
Yeah.
naturally. But the quahogs is really, the soft shells, he's just saying exist there naturally.
Okay.
But you'd really want to just do quahogs.
Yeah,
Yep.
or to put some more seed, and I don't know what the seed costs nowadays, I haven't done this for
Mm.
10 years or so, but,
Depends on the size.
yeah.
But it can be like $10, 1,000 to, I don't know, with the high end.
It was like $500 get us enough seed to make it worth you guys, somebody going out there and,
500 probably not much.
okay, so,
It would depend on the size we would have to buy it at. We don't have like a place to sort of like bolster growth of very small seed in that area of town. And if it grew beyond a certain size, we'd probably have to get pathology done on it, which is costly, before moving it from someplace like where we have our floating upwellers to Hyannis Harbor. Larger seed is more costly and not always available, but it's something that the shellfish biologist could certainly research. If like we have a species specific in mind, it's something that we could definitely look into and then could find a number that might be meaningful.
and when that happens, you folks I mean, you folks get money to go do that normally, or it just hasn't come up for Egg Island? Are there areas that you do seed?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And what is the process? So you have a special rig for doing all this? I really don't know how it works.
So in this town, we buy our quahog seed typically between 1 and 3 millimeters in size. We get between 3 and 4 million quahogs a year at that size, and then put them into floating upwellers underneath docks at Prince Cove Marina and also in Barnstable Harbor Marina, where we grow them throughout the summer until they hopefully get to be about the size of an M&M. And then they're field planted, but they're also put under nets to protect them from predators because there's a lot of predators that can eat them when they're small. It's net cleaning then for the next 1 to potentially 3 years before we pull the nets and then would distribute that seed. Or if it's in an area like Egg Island, we'd probably just pull the nets and then open the area. So.
Would people be able to use that area while they're under the nets?
So that would be, you could, placement of stuff like that in an area that has such high recreational boating activity and recreational boating activity from not just from residents would be challenging, site selection would be challenging. But it's not impossible. If you can get field plant ready size quahogs, which like I said, are expensive and hard to come by, the availability of them is not
That's like buying
guaranteed.
them at the fish store and then throwing them back in the
Right, exactly.
One option is the Snows Creek property that you guys are looking at there, those nets, if you brought.
Yeah, that's
Just a move.
that's an
'cause if
area
that's
where
there, just bring it over there,
yeah, that's an area where we could grow them and then potentially relay them when they're a good size,
Yeah,
because
that's
then
how
you
the-
don't have to worry about the boating activity there. It's not like a
You have
heavily
two spots,
frequented place. Yeah.
I don't know, I think.
But yeah,
it'd be
there's
viable.
possibility there
That's
for
what I was
sure.
gonna say about the relay, what about a portion of the
So
relay?
there's a
Well, boats don't make-
timeline
Financially,
to,
But boats don't make it into the inside
And
of
it's
Egg Island
transport all the
because
way
it's too shallow, so.
That's why I think
People
that
would
planted
to Hyannis
corner,
Harbor.
if you guys do
It's
that.
kind of like selling
If
a
you ever
field
wanted
and
to
then
move stuff,
I
I
guess
would
my-
walking
donate
on
my
the
box truck
seedlings.
and
Yeah,
or
I
my
guess my
four-wheel
question
boat.
becomes now,
So
Move
when
stuff
put them
from
there
the
so they
business
could
to
grow,
time
they
or
ultimately
whatever,
migrate around the
Just an
shoreline.
idea, we
No.
don't begin.
I don't think
just
so.
always- So I'd always.
And a gift,
offer
and a
These guys
are
a
good.
gift into the gift.
no, we're definitely getting into that territory where everybody's talking at the same time.
Sorry.
And we worked really hard over the past decade to let one person speak at a time. So let's try to keep that rolling.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's definitely not outside the realm of possibility. We have some test plots going on outside Snows Creek in the conditionally improved area right now. And if that proves to be a good nursery, then it's much more doable than it would be to try to plant nets behind an area that has an intense amount of recreational boating activity, but they could be moved to there.
Yeah, well, keep in mind that only one side of the island has the boating activity. The inside doesn't have enough water, so people are always on the, not the side that faces Great Island, but the side that faces South Yarmouth, Englewood Beach, that faces that direction. So I just don't know if you put them in the area that's not being, that there's there's no activity in, would they ultimately populate and move around the perimeter? I don't know how this works.
I don't know. I've been with this department for 20 years. We've never planted over there, so it would be 100% just trying it out and seeing if it works.
They don't move, you have to
Move them.
move, there's no moving.
they're
Over the
lazy.
call.
You have to do it.
Okay, anything else?
I have a quick question. Is Egg Island currently a recreational area or is it not?
It's open to all.
Open to all.
So you're saying they could grow in one place and put them there later?
Yeah, it's how we do a lot of propagation, we use Joe's Grant as a nursery for planting around
Yeah,
Three
people
Bays,
could
we
go.
use Handy Point as a nursery for also, feeding that recreational area, but also other areas in Three Bays. So if we find an area that's suitable as a nursery, which we just planted stuff at Snows Creek this year. If it survives, if it does well, I imagine it will, because historically it's been a great place to go for little necks. And, then at that point, we could, go out, do a group dig and move them to the area that was, requested as intended in the donation.
So would it make any kind of sense to plant them in the area the boats can't go to, knowing that people might, ultimately they'll be walking around and trying to shellfish on the other side, but they'd have to get there by foot, which is not a big walk. It's just,
Sure. From an enforcement perspective, no. Like when we have stuff out that's underneath nets, you have to mark the area off as a propagation area closure. And sometimes that draws attention that you don't necessarily want to it. The area of Snows Creek is very small. There's very little access there. It's super residential. And so I can drive to it. I can walk down a very short path and can deal with something if something's happening. If we're planting nets out at Egg Island, I have to launch a boat and then go over there to potentially address something that potentially has already happened and then left the building. So it would make the most sense to grow them someplace else to size and then relay them there.
And it would remain an open to all area?
Yeah.
Be, okay.
where do your funds for seed normally come from?
So we have the cooperative extension, the county bid. That goes out for quahog seed and for oyster seed annually. The state sets aside some money that gets split up around the towns that do propagation. You get sometimes, between it's $2,500 and $5,000 a year. We also get funds through the purchase of shellfish permits, both commercially and recreationally, that goes into our S account. That helps fund not only shell stock, but also employees, gear, etc. And then we have the infusion fund, which was developed in September of '89, if I remember correctly, where then town manager John Klim set aside $100,000 a year for us to purchase shell stock. But only shell stock. It can't be spent on labor, it can't be spent on gear, it can't be spent on boat maintenance or anything like that. So that's where we get our various sources of seed money. And occasionally through donations, which hopefully will have a smoother process in about a month.
Okay, anything else on that topic?
No,
All right, thank you, Wayne.
I'm 2/3 educated now, I just.
I think there's definitely interest, so I'll, get with the biologist and see if we can figure out what that type of donation would have to be for us to, give it a whirl
Sure,
and then let you know.
okay,
Sound good?
yep. Okay.
All right.
Good to see you.
Natural Resources Report Correspondence. This is
Okay.
Amy.
So, growing area updates. I have none because I don't know if the Mills River in Prince Cove is going to open on time yet because they can't do water quality sampling there until a minimum of 2 weeks before the opening. And we're still a month out from that potential opening. So what I do have are numbers.
March 1st. When is that usually?
February 15th.
15th.
Through the end of April. So far for January 2025, we had sold 873 resident permits this year to date, 240, non-residents 215 and 74, resident senior 606, 211, non-resident veteran 27 and 9, and non-resident veteran senior 63 and 20. Last year to date, we had 1,784 permits issued. This year, 554 thus far. This year, new to this year, I know you might think that's a very staggering difference, but there's a legitimate reason. This year, due to a couple of years of issues with transfer of permit and lack of ability to identify people adequately, you're now required to upload some sort of photo identification to get your recreational shellfish permit. And that then needs to be approved before you can have that sort of box checked and then it's released to you to pay. So it's an extra step. And then in addition, residents are being required to upload something showing proof of residency, which we used to just sort of roll over year to year. And so it's a couple extra steps that, takes administrative staff more time, takes more time explaining to people how to walk through those steps. And so it's a learning year of a new process. But in the future, will give us a way to look at somebody's permit on our phone when we see them and say, yeah, that's definitely not you, so we have a problem here. So in the long run, it'll be good, but for right now, it's just sort of slowing the renewal process.
Was there a delay getting the renewals onto the dashboard? Because before I went on vacation, I couldn't find mine. I was trying to, like when I got my beach permit, I tried to get my shellfish and I could not get it on the dashboard.
So there was a period of time where we were transitioning all of the 2025 stuff to 2026, and I want to say it was like maybe a week or so that the entire system was just, you couldn't do anything in it. So those are, reasons why that is most likely. And it should level out at some point in time, but we're also in renewal season for literally everything else, including dog licenses, mooring permits, marina slips, like Sandy Neck permits, because we went to like a department-wide, more in line with the calendar year for everything. So that way, if somebody has a mooring, a dog, a shellfish permit, and an ORV permit, you just say, there's your invoice for the year for everything. Whereas before it was like dog permits were July and shellfish permits were March and mooring permits were February and ORV permits were the middle of April. And it was just a mess of renewals. So transitioning to doing them all at once is of course a mesh in the beginning, but I think in a couple of years it'll be much more streamlined. So. Any other questions regarding the numbers? Okay. So we also have the January propagation reports. Team Shellfish attended NACE, which for those who don't live in a world of acronyms is the Northeast Aquaculture Conference and Exposition in Portland, Maine. To represent the town of Barnstable, they presented a poster outlining their remote set program, comparing methods used in Barnstable and Chatham. While up in Maine, they had a private tour of Merry Meeting Shellfish Hatchery, which is where we got to see their seed production. They're also the company that won the county bid for quahogs this year, and they won it last year, and it was their first year in the bid, and they performed very well. Planning is underway for spring school programs, including a 3-part program with 5th graders at Barnstable United School, Nature Superstars with kindergartners, and participation as judges for 2 science fairs. Preparations have also begun for kids clamming in June and for summer public clamming classes. We distributed information about a proposed buddy system program that would allow shellfish volunteers to partner with recreational shellfishers, providing a safer way to shellfish during the winter months. We have had a couple people fall in this year, and that's never a good thing. We'll have more information on recruitment next month and hope this initiative will encourage participation from individuals who might otherwise avoid winter shellfishing. We continue winter maintenance of gear, fixing and reorganizing, as well as quahog net cleaning, which is on a monthly cleaning cycle. For oyster season, they have moved from the full peck down to a half peck per week to sustain the oyster season as long as we can. We're looking into East Bay as a possible oyster growing area because it's the only bay in town that has real natural oysters set around and that they're surviving. And the test oysters that they have in East Bay are doing very well. And as 3 bays holds dermo, which has made growing difficult this year, we're likely going to send some legal oysters from East Bay out for pathology to see if East Bay is in fact dermo-free, because it might be. And if it is, Douses is a very big parking lot, would be very easily accessible for a recreational shellfishery. Only tricky part would be managing where you grow them in relation to where people can actually boat there, where you can maintain them easily and not interfering with the Douses public beach, resident only public beach, I should say. The last thing I think that I have, 2 more things, sorry. Mass Aquaculture Association annual meeting for growers, if you're a member of it, is February 27th. There's an agenda for growers only from 9 to 10:30. I have a general membership because I believe it's important to not just interact with the growers that I have, but also sort of hear, from the industry as a whole and be a part of it. So I'll be attending the general membership meeting from 11 to 4:30, and it's at the Rosebrook Event Center in Wareham, Mass. Registration is required. And then last but not least, I asked about sometimes meeting in person and sometimes meeting via Zoom, and that is tiny and nobody will be able to read it. So let's try that. Woo! Okay, so, and after a month of a little bit of back and forth, yes, we can either meet entirely in person at a meeting or entirely meet via Zoom in a meeting. The only public body that is allowed to do Zoom and in person at the same time is town council. So if you looking at any of these meetings, I know we opted out of November, thank you, it's my birthday, and I wouldn't be here anyway. If any of these meetings like look to you as this is a bad time of year for us to potentially have a quorum, you know, you travel in the wintertime to visit family, would prefer to have any of these meetings via Zoom. I forgot to look at the tides to see like which ones might result in us not having a quorum. But just kind of mull it around in your brain, because we have 100% the ability to like cancel this room and set up a meeting via Zoom so long as we do it while abiding by open meeting law. So just mull that around and then, you know, hit me up if you have any ideas on it. You know, if you see something there that you're like, I really feel like in December, I probably would just like to sit in my living room for this meeting, or, you know, or in Florida for this meeting.
I think a lot of times it depends on what's being talked about.
It's true, yeah. But so, and even for something that has like an extremely light agenda, you know, instead of having everybody take the time to come here, you could just log into a computer. We do understand that Zoom bombing can be an issue, but I feel like more often than not, the people we have participating in these meetings are people that we all know.
Could we do it like 2 weeks before the meeting, or is there a way to determine?
To make a decision?
Yeah, I mean, if
I
there's
think
nothing
so,
on the,
yeah.
if
I
there's
think
nothing
so
on the
long as
agenda,
it's
then
not
everyone-
by open
everybody-
meeting law, as long as you give 48 hours notification to anyone who might be like from the public and would have to see that it's transitioned to something else. But my preference would be to try to, you know, like, to suss out whether or not we want to meet in person or via Zoom, like sooner than later, so that way it's not as much of a burden for someone to have to kind of like pay attention to it and look for any changes up to the last second.
It would be easier probably to assume it wasn't Zoom, and then if it did change to Zoom, it's easier than assuming it's Zoom and then switching to in person, you know what I'm saying?
We have this room booked for all of these meetings for this year, so on the town calendar, they all are shown as in-person meetings. But it's just something to think about, you know? It was something that I was asked to look into after we discovered that zoning board could meet sometimes in person, sometimes via Zoom, so I looked into it, that was the answer I got, and so that's what it is. And then that's it. In case anybody else had any burning questions about shellfishing in January.
Any word on Baxter's, any rumblings about that? Nothing?
No, I haven't heard anything.
Excuse me.
Anything else? Okay, next topic, new business. Nothing? Okay. Upcoming old and renewal. First one, hearing for renewal of the agricultural license for NG 051 Christopher Wood, 19 Cove Island, Centerville, period of 10 years. Public hearing is tomorrow at 10 a.m. Any comment on that?
So Chris is not here. I pretty much knew he wasn't ready, because I saw him pulling his boat like after 4 today. So this is his site over here. This is the southern section of the aquaculture zone in Barnstable Harbor. Actually remembered to make a map of where it is located for the first time in a while. And this is his application. Hearing is held tomorrow. So it's approximately 2 acres with a mean low water depth of dry, so 0, and a mean high water depth of 5 to 6 feet. The existing bottom conditions are sand. Existing natural shellfish populations are none. Species that he cultivates are quahog and soft-shell clam. He does not plan on cultivating any other species. His specific details are grow out under 11 by 60 flat and tented nets for both species. He harvests his shellfish by hand rake, pitchfork, hydraulic pump for soft shell is allowed under the Army Corps permit for the aquaculture zone. He does institute a predator control plan of nets. It is his sole means of support, and he does employ outside help in his operations. His requested term of renewal is 10 years. And then this is the site right here, which was issued to him back in 2010. It was the 7th one of that year. So I can say Natural Resources doesn't have any issue to this renewal. And if you have any questions, maybe I can answer them, maybe I cannot, but he's been growing in town for a long time and just wants to continue doing, he is one of the OGs, yeah. Yep.
Okay,
So what do we make a
So you guys,
recommendation to?
yeah, so
Yeah.
what you do is you entertain a motion to recommend the town manager approve the renewal. In so many words.
I'll make a recommendation.
What she said.
Yeah, what she said.
That the town manager approves site NG 05
I'll second that.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any questions? Next one.
I will make just one note. This right here should say that right there. I got confused in my brain because we just had Hamlin transfers and Jenny and DJ live on Calvin Hamlin Road and forgot to switch out her name. So there's a good old little typo.
Hearing for the transfer of aquaculture license site NG 038 from Carl Carlson, 275 Ojil Lane in Barnstable to Jenny Crook and Marston's Mills. Issuance of a license for a period of 5 years. Public hearing is tomorrow.
Yes. And as mentioned before, DJ, who's the chair of this committee, and his wife Jenny just had a baby 3 weeks ago, and they also have a 3-year-old, so neither one of them are in attendance this evening for obvious reasons. So this is, Carl Carlson's site, also in the southern portion of the Barnstable aquaculture zone. This is his letter requesting the transfer to Jenny Crook. The site in question has approximately 0.82 acres, a mean low water depth of 0 feet and a mean high water depth of 8 feet. The existing bottom conditions are muddy, and the species of shellfish to be cultivated would be oysters and quahogs. It looks like at this time they don't plan on cultivating anything else. Specific details to method of cultivation: oyster cages, seed racks, clam netting. No unnatural substrate will be distributed. Proposed method of harvest is by hand or rake. They will institute a predator control program in the form of green crab traps. It is not the proposed sole means of support for Jenny. Does plan to employ outside help in the operation, and because any transfer is treated as a new application, the requested term of grant cannot exceed 5 years, and so they're requesting 5 years. And then this is the area in question. I can say that Natural Resources doesn't have any opposition to this transfer. Carl made it known to me a number of years ago that he had planned on transferring to DJ or to Jenny once we sort of changed the acreage limitations. And so this has been a while in the works and is just now coming to fruition. Does anyone have any questions about that?
What's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion for the recommendation to approve the transfer to Jenny Crook from Carl Carlson.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Hi.
Opposed? Questions? So be it. Next is project location 169 Sultan Point Road, Barnstable, map 3011, parcel 003. Representative Mark Dibb, professional engineer, Cape and Island Engineering, Inc. To construct a boardwalk above mean high water for access to water, Barnstable Harbor. The project includes salt marsh restoration for proposed net environmental benefit to resource areas. Conservation hearing was held on the 6th, and I have no information on that.
So essentially what the applicant wants to do is create a boardwalk from above the mean high, straight on their property, as you can see on the screen, down to the actual water's cliff, yeah. To the water's cliff, yes, yeah. And they also want to do some salt marsh restoration as part of the project because that seems to be the hot topic right now. So from like a shellfish perspective, there won't be any impact to shellfish, populations because it won't be in an area where shellfish would be present. I have had a couple of conversations with people concerned over access, to which I would remind that the path when you park at Rendezvous, if you take the path to the left, you are technically trespassing the entire way until you get to the intertidal zone because you're traipsing across property above you're not in the intertidal area anymore. So the conservation parcel that is also adjacent to the parking lot has, in addition, a well-established path that goes to the right. It's a longer walk to get to the area because you have to walk through the prohibited area, but it does maintain access for both recreational and commercial shellfishermen, for people that go fishing there, for people that walk their dogs there. It's just sort of like rewriting your brain to go right rather than left when you get to the parking area.
Amy, this, sorry about that, you didn't see my hand. They just had this on the conservation meeting on the Zoom with Tom Lee.
Yeah, did they pass it, do you know?
No,
It got continued, right?
They shut it down.
They did. I tried to watch the video before I came in and I couldn't see it.
Yes.
Yeah, they approved it.
They did approve it?
There was
Approved it for 2 feet high, no more than 2 feet high.
Okay.
Plastic so that some of the sunlight will get through, figuring most of it's high marsh, Spartina, Payton's.
Like a 2 foot.
Like 3 feet wide, like 120 feet long, it's huge, it goes all the way from the backyard.
It was
Is it gonna
opposed
have-
by
it
the
looks-
commissioner.
It's
Is it gonna have
huge.
railings, or is it just a walkway that's 2 feet
I think it's
tall?
just a
By the
walkway.
agent, the conservation agent, whoever's
Okay,
on
one
the
person at a
business.
time, please.
So the conditions haven't been written yet, I don't think, so the question was, so I think with only 2 feet high, you don't need a railing. So I wrote a letter today saying, make sure there's no railing. Because then it gets into a visual problem. And then if you let this one out,
Everyone's
it's like you're letting
Yeah.
the side of the barn.
Yeah, that's it. Everyone's gonna
All the way
walk.
down, down by the yacht club and down that way, there'll be people putting.
Yep.
And it doesn't, my question was, when was the high tide mark? When was that line drawn? This one here,
Yeah, because it's water code. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the tide, the ocean's rising as time goes on.
I was gonna say before sea level rise occurred.
Right, exactly. And it doesn't go all the way, I walked it the other day, it doesn't go, the walkway can't go all the way to the edge of the marsh and where it drops off.
Right.
Because there are a couple of levels where it sort of eases in a little bit down.
Oh, yeah.
So they're gonna have to walk it with conservation and mark out exactly how far it can go.
Yeah, okay.
I was
So it
stupid.
was approved.
It was
okay.
approved.
I thought it wasn't, I watched it.
They wanted it 4 feet high with a railing.
Yeah, I remember them saying 4 feet, and then,
And there's no water there, I mean, you can put a boat out there, and you could walk a kayak, I guess, out there.
Yeah.
My question was why, do you need to approve it? I mean, does somebody really need a walkway?
I think honestly, the applicant's interest here was just to curb people walking on their property.
Yeah, but with only 2 feet high, then you can still,
Walk over.
you can still get over it. If the tide comes in and you have to walk, you can get over it.
I would just encourage people, like, take the path
Yes.
to the right, cause it goes through an actual conservation parcel and not through private property and,
Yep.
yeah,
No, I
would
agree.
then be completely legit.
oh yeah, get off my marsh. Yep, okay.
So since it's already approved, I guess you guys don't need to, take any
Okay, thank you.
on it.
All right. Old business, apprentice program discussion continued.
So since the last time we talked about this, a number of people have submitted commentary. Some of that commentary I could share with the committee. Some of that commentary was submitted by a committee member, and therefore, if I shared it with everyone without it being a part of this public meeting, it would likely be an open meeting law violation. So I just sort of compiled everything together, thought it might be beneficial to just read everything into the record today, so that way it's a part of public recording, and then come back in a month, because I haven't had, some of this stuff I just got like in the past few days and haven't had a chance to sort of like compile any like key points to anyone's opinions. So if it pleases the committee, I would just sort of read the commentaries into the record for today to continue discussion next month. The other piece was I said I would do homework, and I did. I did an apprentice program query to all of the Mass Shellfish Officers Association membership. I got responses from 4 people. There's very many more coastal communities in this state that have shell fisheries, so I then went to each individual website and looked at all of their individual regulations, took notes on things, and so essentially there are a number of coastal communities that have entirely closed or open but limited entry fisheries, which would be similar to what we have. And then some that I just couldn't find regulations for at all. And then there are a number of them that have, say for instance, Sequina, you are just eligible for a commercial permit at age 15, they have an open fishery. If it's just an endorsement for quahogs and softshell, it's $60. For bay scallops, it's $200, and for oysters, it's $75. In the town of Bourne, they have an open commercial fishery. They do have an apprentice program. It is for people who are 12 to 16 years of age, and they have to be under the supervision of an adult permit holder. And the cost for that is $100. Next, we have Chatham, which has an open commercial fishery. They have a junior commercial permit. The specific requirements are not listed. It just costs $125. Cohasset is working on a draft fishery. They in draft do want to have an apprentice program for people who are 12 to 16 years old. They have to prove that they're actively enrolled in school, and they must have a sponsor. It didn't show if there was any cost for participation in that program. Essex has an open commercial fishery. They have something called a student commercial license. Proof of age, I'm guessing that you are a student because you're also required to show proof of full course load at school. If you file on time, it's a $200 permit. If you file late, it is $300. In Fairhaven, they have an open commercial fishery. They do offer a student commercial license for people who are ages 15 to 18. They must show that they're enrolled in school actively, and it's unknown if there's any cost associated with it. In Gloucester, there's an open commercial fishery, and they offer something called a full-time student commercial permit, and you need to provide your school ID or written proof of enrollment. And the cost for that is $200. In Ipswich, they have an open commercial fishery, offers student commercial license. You have to be a full-time student having passed 8th grade, ages 14 to 19, capped at 5 licenses in any given year. And the cost for that is $250. In Marion, they have an open commercial fishery. They have a junior commercial cohog specific permit that costs $50. Requirements were not listed for it. In Newbury, they have an open commercial fishery. They also offer a junior license. They must be listed on the annual town census and have to be under 15 years old by their application time on April 1st. And the cost for that is $100. We have Orleans, which has an open commercial fishery. They offer some sort of permit that doesn't have a name but is essentially a junior commercial permit for people either ages 14 to 15 or 16 to 19. Ages 14 to 15 with accompanying work permit requirements for people ages 16 to 19 are not listed. If you're between 14 and 15 years old, the cost is free, and if you're 16 to 19, it's $200. In Raleigh, they have an open commercial fishery. They offer a junior commercial permit open to people who are ages 15 to 18 with proof of residency required, and it costs $200. We've got Swansea, which has an open commercial fishery. They offer a junior commercial permit for people ages 18 to 23 that need to provide proof of active enrollment in college, and the cost for that is $50. We've got Wellfleet, which has an open commercial fishery. They do offer a junior commercial permit for people who are ages 14 to 17. And this was interesting to me. It's $30 if you're a resident, but you can get one as a non-resident for $50. So you could be a junior commercial permit holder in Wellfleet and not a resident of Wellfleet. Westport has an open commercial fishery. They have what's called a special commercial license for 16-year-olds only, and you're not allowed to fish during school hours, and it costs you $60. Which makes sense, you know? Some of these, so I did do a full survey of 58 towns, of course, excluding Barnstable. 16 towns, excluding Barnstable, have some sort of apprentice program or junior commercial license with varying fees and requirements. All 16 of those towns have commercial fisheries, which is also interesting.
Open.
Open commercial fisheries. So they don't have like a cap on the amount of licenses. So I found that interesting that in places where you had like a junior permit, special permit, apprentice permit, that you also have a completely open commercial fishery. So then Bill Cherapon had submitted commentary to me. Hello, Amy, I have some comments to share with you. These are just thoughts to paper and not anything else. Having read comments thus far, I see merit in increasing the age requirement from 18 years to 21 years of age. Increasing the age will afford students opportunity to play sports, music, join clubs, date, study, etc. while working on their 400 apprentice hours. If an individual has constraint meeting the 400-hour requirements, such as family divorce, serious illness, death of a family member, physical impairment, etc., the individual should state their case in writing by sending a letter to the Department of Natural Resources. A conference with concerned parties should be convened to discuss the immediate issue. If the person is under 18 years of age, a parent guardian needs to be in attendance. Suggest getting the apprentice together on occasion to hear their concerns, complement suggestions, or discuss interactive issues. For future core development, I would suggest the following references. HUIC grant in partnership with Cape Cod Cooperative Extension offers a 10-week course covering biology to business, includes safe harvesting and handling practices. Virginia Institute of Marine Science, online self-paced open library of instructional videos. Mass Maritime undergraduate program, although not really applicable here. East Coast Shellfish Growers Association is free, has online training, including boat safety, food handling, safety, and marketing, all geared to entry level, but I think that's specific to people who are going into aquaculture and not necessarily commercial, just wild harvest. It seems to be quite intensive for sure to start slowly. Again, I support increasing the age from 18 to 21. Perhaps an exploratory group be formed to develop an apprentice core training program. Exploratory group may request assistance from the Shellfish Committee, bars, retired teachers, and aquaculture owners. And Nina Coleman was interested in a general training of some sort. Bruce Blackman, who is not here today. Dear Shellfish Committee members, I'm writing to you concerning the apprentice shellfish permit regulations. In the past year or so, this program has experienced a significant increase in participations, resulting in the potential award of 7 additional licenses above the current historic cap of 47 commercial licenses. This represents an overall potential increase of 15%. Should all current apprentices successfully complete the program, such an expansion will likely have negative impacts on both the commercial and recreational shellfish communities. More commercial permits above the current 47 permits will likely put more pressure on remaining areas open to shellfish harvesting. Because of these impacts, I urge both recreation and commercial committee members to give serious considerations for termination of this program. In my opinion, it's an unnecessary legacy program. Further, the existing lottery procedures for allocation commercial licenses are more equitable to the community at large. We need to start with the premise that the shellfish within the town of Barnstable is a finite public resource, which is constrained by water quality, habitat, weather, disease, and supply of both native stock and those supplemented by the town. In recent decades, the overall footprint of areas accessible to recreational and commercial fishing have been further restricted and impacted by both water quality as well as the expansion of aquacultural grants. I don't necessarily agree with that. I'm not questioning the benefits of aquaculture grants. However, even a cursory review does indicate there are large swaths of areas, both north and south side, that have been designated exclusively for the use by aquaculture. My concerns are that by expanding the number of commercial permits by 15% or potentially much higher will likely adversely impact both recreational and commercial community. The apprentice program is currently designed for the benefit of a select individuals, i.e. family and friends of the current commercial licensees. Public resources as a general rule should not be allocated based on family status, family ties, etc. I have to reiterate that shellfish is a public resource and you need to be fair in the application of this public benefit. Other town resources such as housing, moorings, mooring assignments, etc. don't consider family or friend connections, rather based on a lottery assignment. Also not entirely true. This begs the question, why should the awarding of shellfishing permits be any different? A number of years ago, the town of Barnstable developed a lottery process for the assignment of commercial licenses. Consistently, 25 or more individuals, mostly young people, submit their application and $5 to participate in the annual lottery. Some are successful while others participate for years before they draw a low number. Others have participated for a decade or more and still have not been successful. It should also be noted that children and friends of existing commercial permit holders are free to participate in the lottery upon attainment of 18 years of age. It seems to me that it's unfair that a small subset of the community is being granted an edge-up special treatment that's not offered to the community at large. We should always strive to create a level playing field for town residents when it comes to town resources. I also have concerns that the current apprentice program regulations may conflict with public policy, state laws, and federal laws. Generally, all apprentice programs in the state cannot restrict participation based on age. The exception being there can be some restriction placed on underage workers, especially due to worker safety issues. In essence, the town has created an apprentice program that restricts participation by anyone over the age of 18 years old. On the face of it, these town regulations appear to discriminate against older workers, workers covered under the Americans with Disabilities Act, and disabled veterans. No doubt there are older and disabled individuals that may be interested in participating in the apprentice programs but are currently being excluded based solely on their age and or disability. This seems to be patently unfair and at the very least in conflict with the spirit to the public policy, which is designed to protect disadvantaged workers. In summary, I recommend termination of the apprentice program in reliance on the lottery process for individuals interested in commercial shellfishing. Perhaps increasing the ceiling currently placed on permits is a workable alternative. I'll defer to the town biologist regarding the feasibility of increasing the overall number of permits. If you continue if you determine to continue with the apprentice program, attached is enclosure 1, that are my thoughts regarding restructuring the program. So his recommended changes to the apprentice program. The apprentice program should be a structured program to give the participant/apprentice general exposure to all aspects of the shellfishing industry. This includes harvesting of all legal species, various methods used to harvest shellfish, safe operations, boat handling, etc. In addition, it should include exposure to safe handling and sanitation programs and monthly reporting requirements of DMR. Considering the nature and direction of the industry, the participants need to have exposure in the aquaculture and retail marketing operations too. The sponsor of the apprentice should not dictate what they consider important, but rather the goal should be to provide the apprentice maximum exposure to all aspects of the industry. Structured training should include formal boating safety courses, general knowledge of seamanship, sanitation, required safety gear, rules of the road, advanced first aid training, CPR training, monthly report requirements in the DNR. This training should result in certification in these respective areas. There may be courses offered by nonprofits as well as the community college, Coast Guard Auxiliary that can be used to document this training. The minimum age for the apprentice program should be 15 years old. Generally at this age, they have both physical strength, stamina, and maturity developed to perform their duties. The environment will likely involve machinery and equipment, which may not be a good idea to have younger people around. There should be no maximum age for those that want to participate in the apprentice program. As previously mentioned, limiting the program to under 16 may very well be in conflict with law protecting older and disabled workers. I recommend that 1,040 hours, basically 6 months of full-time employment, be documented in order to successfully complete the program. Further, all program requirements must be completed with a 36-month time frame. This would mean on average the apprentice would need to complete approximately 350 hours per year to complete the program, hours related to formal training, field training, boat prep, volunteer activities related to the town's shellfish propagation program would all count towards meeting the 1,040 hour requirements. Hours involving transportation of product, interface with wholesalers, aquaculture licensees would likewise count towards the overall time requirements. Apprentice should require to maintain a valid state shellfishing permit throughout their apprenticeship. The acceptance of work hours documentation should be subject to review and concurrence of Natural Resources Officer. Further, the NRO may require additional information to substantiate that the hours have been successfully completed, including journals, monthly shellfishing reports. Approval of this requirement is at the sole discretion of the NRO. I have a commentary. These work. Okay, well, I printed them, so there you go. I don't know if it's gonna open because it was just in an email. So, from Jake Angelo, here's my written comment regarding the apprenticeship program for you to put on record and distribute. Thank you. Apprenticeship program, I'm writing this letter to explain why I'm in favor of discontinuing the apprenticeship program. The fishery as it is today, Barnstable for over a decade now, has become known as a razor clam harbor. Every few years, a harvestable set of razors has developed, creating a boom and bust around the fishery. Because razor clams are more lucrative and easier to harvest compared to other species, the fishing effort spikes dramatically when they are present. Looking out from Scudder Lane during a bust year, you wouldn't even know there were commercial wild shellfishermen in the harbor, with only a handful of us out there scraping by. However, during a razor set, there are so many skiffs on the flats with people working that it becomes quite a spectacle. During bust years, there are times when you'd be hard pressed to find half a dozen, maybe 6 commercial permit holders out on any given day across all our bays. But when razors are around, there can be over 20 commercial permits all working in Barnstable Harbor at a time. Barnstable issues 47 commercial shellfish permits that do not include fishermen who have Aboriginal rights. For discussion purposes, let's call any permit that commercially landed any quantity or species at least one time or more in a year as an active permit. During a year when we have razor clams, I would not be surprised if there are over 30 active permits compared to a bust year where my guess would be closer to 15. We all know the story of why and how this town went from unlimited permits to the 47 we have now. The biggest intention and benefit of that decision all those years ago was to make it so folks could make a living on our waters. Today, I'm just one of several people whose primary source of income is going out in the wild and harvesting shellfish. However, a beautiful part of this permit is that you can use it as much or as little as you'd like. Some people with other jobs or businesses who might not want to co-hog all day for a few $100s will take advantage of razor clamming to make quadruple the money in a fraction of the time. This is why getting your name drawn on the lottery for many feels like winning the lottery. There are also inactive permits often held by people who at one point or another used to shellfish but now keep it as an insurance policy in case they ever need to fall back on it. Since 2015, there has been roughly 1 permit given out a year through the lottery, with 6 being under 40 years old and at least 4 making it a major source of income. Looking at all the young names on the lottery list and all the fishermen reaching retirement age, I see no reason for this trend to not continue. Why the apprentice program should be discontinued. I think the most important reason for the apprenticeship program to be discontinued is that from a fisheries management standpoint, there's no evidence to support an increase in effort. 47 permits are not fully utilized, and we need to be considerate of that fact could change. There's already a moratorium on aquaculture sites because there's no more room for aquaculture in our town, and the same is true for commercial shellfish permits. Our area is limited and not fully utilized by the entire 47 permit fishery. The purpose of limiting permits years ago was to reduce the gold rush mentality and promote a fishery that could sustain full-time shellfishermen. Decades later, the system currently supports less than a dozen full-time shellfishermen. Adding permits to the families already established in the fishery would unfairly take away from resources designed to support the current 47 permits. The apprenticeship program as is only benefits current families with commercial permits, is not help children with no ties to the industry get established. Therefore, very few select children are benefiting from this regulation. I believe that very few commercial permit holders as well as lottery participants are aware of the situation unfolding. I feel it's important to get as many stakeholder opinions on this situation as possible. I feel the proponents of this regulation are only acting in their self-interest for short-term gains, and when fishing is good and will disappear when the going gets tough. Based on my years of experience as a full-time commercial shellfisherman, I do not see the benefit of the fishery to continue the commercial shellfish apprentice program. Oh, for God's sake. All right. So, from Jim Weiler, he would like to see, we had a bit of correspondence back and forth. Initially, he said, it seems the arguments against the apprenticeship program are from the commercial fishery because it's basically a way to increase competition in the commercial fishery by adding permits. I remember you said that increasing the number of permits was the idea in the past, but you also said the fishing area has been increased over time, which would decrease competition. The arguments for some seem to be 1, get family into the business, 2, get new blood into the business. I think number 1 is satisfied by the existing inheritance regulations. The apprentice program makes it easier for number 2, but still possible for number 2 to happen without the program, so getting on the list is the same way that everyone else does. His vote would be to suspend the program indefinitely and let the existing 7 people in the program continue. He also states, I think the changes for age and keeping the apprentice permit separate from the existing commercial fishery permit pool is fine. I think some kind of multi-species requirement policy is good too. The inheritance of apprentice licenses wasn't brought up, but I was later explained to him that if you do have like an actual commercial permit, that there is an inheritance process for someone who holds a for real commercial permit in town that we set up after John DeVoychick's passing.
Amy, it's hard to hear it.
So like for participants in the apprentice program, there would be no like if they had a permit, an apprentice permit, it wouldn't matter if they had an apprentice permit or not, because if their sponsor is a full-time like commercial permit holder and they were to pass as a result of untimely death, we have a regulation that allows inheritance of that permit. So it would be inheritable either way, regardless of participation in the apprentice program.
So a commercial fisherman who has a family member, if they pass away, they can bequeath that to their family member.
Yes.
That doesn't have to go back into the lottery.
Right. There's a time restriction on it. There's, you have to be a next of kin as described in the regulation. But following the deaths of a couple of shell fishermen. We thought, aquaculture licenses under state statute are heritable, commercial shell fishing permits should be heritable.
So if you build
as
a
well.
business as a commercial shellfisher, you can pass that on to your family.
Right, exactly. So then we have,
So I got a question on that.
uh-huh,
Jill, her father passed, was she not able to get his?
that regulation didn't exist yet.
Oh, okay.
So we have John J.J. Madden, good afternoon. I just wanted to express my opinion on the topic of the multi-species requirement proposal for the apprenticeship program. I attended the meeting on Wednesday, however, I'm a new license holder and wanted some time to think on the matter before voicing an opinion. I believe a multi-species requirement is a good idea. The program is a surefire way to guaranteeing a license to someone. Many people, including myself, have waited years to win the lottery. Many people might never get the opportunity to obtain it. It is a privilege. The program is certainly a great way to allow people to pass this amazing way of life onto their next generation, and I support it fully. However, this program also allows them to circumvent the lottery. Therefore, I believe it's important they should learn a broader education than simply just picking up razors or any one species for that matter. For an apprenticeship program of any type, 400 hours is a very short time, relatively speaking, and should be easily doable, especially with the age limit potentially being pushed back to 21. I believe that a limit of no more than 50% for one particular species is more than fair. For such an advantageous program, I simply believe there should be a fair standard of merit to accompany it. Thank you for your time. If you would please pass this forward to the other committee members, would be greatly appreciated. I think I read Maggie's because they came in like way earlier, but since we're here and we're reading them all into the record, I'd prefer to just get them all in the same meeting for recording purposes. To whom it may concern, I'm writing this letter to address my concerns with the current state of the appreciation program. I believe this program has wonderful intentions and will allow for children to foster a love for the ocean and possibly a career in the industry. While I see the good in this program, I also see people abusing this program. Barnstable shellfishing license is a highly valuable and coveted license. I've been working with Jake Angelo 6 days a week for almost a year. I've personally seen most of the apprentices out there working and engaging with their mentors. The only exception to this is Hank's daughters. I understand the children are not capable of the same capacity of work as adults, but they shouldn't be able to get hours for this program without being involved in the harvesting process. There are some days where the kids don't even leave the boat and others where they're far away making sandcastles. This is extremely unfair to fishermen out there who waited years to get a license in the other children in the program. On top of this, I believe the program should not be able to be completed with only one species of shellfish. There are so many species that can be harvested with a license, and the apprentices should at least be exposed to more than one. Thank you for reading my concerns. Maggie McCleary. To whom it may concern, this is from Rachel Lynn. As the conversation regarding the apprentice program has continued, I believe it highlights a pathway of inequity within the fishery. My concern is not with preserving or preventing individual advantage, but with maintaining a fair, sustainable, and transparent system that protects the structure and integrity of the fishery. The town has maintained a limited entry commercial shellfish permit system to promote sustainable shellfishing. The apprentice program undermines the existing commercial fishery because the one-in, one-out rules do not apply, allowing the total number of commercial shellfish licenses to increase beyond the established cap. The spirit of the lottery system is to provide an equitable opportunity when openings among the existing 47 licenses become available. The apprenticeship program is not equitable because it operates outside the lottery system and is based on age and personal connections to someone with an existing commercial shellfish license. I understand that the apprentice program was formed with good intentions. However, the reality is that it stands to make the fishery less sustainable. With the addition of a commercial license upon the apprentice's completion, the program increases pressure on the shellfish resource and dilutes viability for existing license holders. This expansion exceeds the number of licenses that have been established as appropriate and sustainable for the fishery. While there is certainly more to be said about the rules of the apprenticeship program and other elements should the program continue, I hope that focusing on the core issues of inequitable access and increased pressure on the resource demonstrates the most appropriate course of action is to terminate this program. I appreciate your consideration, Rachel Lynn. From Teresa Hendricks, hi, I do have an opinion as a shellfish farmer also. I believe this program is great for children and or young adults. I wish it were around in the 70s when I fished with my grandfather on Cape Cod all the time. Maybe the age criteria to get the 400 hours, it seems a bit young. A child that age isn't really of working age and shouldn't be, they should be having fun. However, the license is something all of us would love to have, including myself, and at my age will probably never win the lottery. I also completely agree with them learning other species. It shouldn't just be razor clams. A quahog rake is not a huge expense. Our apprentice is of working age and we teach them the importance of what this program offers him and an opportunity for his future. He doesn't have the opportunity to slack off with me and Paul. He doesn't have parents and is being raised by his grandmother. I want him to see the importance of hard work and possibly make a bright future for himself if this is what he enjoys. He loves it and asks many questions. We're showing him how to dig quahogs and making him run things around and showing him the harvest tags and paperwork needed, explaining rules that need to be followed. I'm happy you're thinking of updating the age to 21. As a high school student, his schoolwork is much more intense than an elementary age child, which limits his hours. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining because the program is great, just maybe a bit of tweaking, as it's not really fair that someone who is working / learning the entire time should follow the same requirement as those who aren't. It's kind of an honor system, and truthfully, you can't say playing is working hours. As a parent, I taught my kids the importance of honesty and hard work. When you work, you get paid, but I didn't have my kids working as a child either as their kids. My son fished for fun, but if he was in an apprenticeship program, I would report the hours he worked, not the time he wasn't. I think it's great that Cape Codders, they're showing the kids what they do, but it's not fair to accumulate hours and eventually a license for playing a majority of the time. Definitely believe they need to learn other commercial shellfishing activities. Razor clams aren't going to be available every year. It makes no sense to only learn that species, especially in our ever-changing climate changes. Thank you for hearing my opinion. Teresa Hendricks. And before my voice totally leaves the building, from Tyler Hagenstein. Hi, Amy. I wanted to share thoughts on what was recently discussed at the Shellfish Committee meeting regarding the apprenticeship program. I believe this is the most important topic and has been discussed in regards to keeping our fishery sustainable for the people involved. As the regulation stands now, I'm strongly against it. At first glance, I figured it would be too much of an effort for people to take advantage of this program, and I think some people in the room last meeting thought the same. Now that I have thought about it, 400 hours sounds like a large number, but in fact is easily achievable. My helper Liam has been with me for a year and a half now. Looking through my logbooks and his payroll information, he has enough hours to have qualified almost 3 times. That's just in a year and a half. This is an honest number and does not take into account the hours he was walking around the flat or sitting on the boat going through his phone. A lot has changed in our regulation book over the years. The apprentice program feels like the sleeping giant that has been overlooked. We're now allowed to have helpers while cohogging. This is an opportunity for hours. It's become popular to use a helper while razoring, another chance for hours. We now have a dredge program that has created more need for helper positions, another chance for hours. These helper positions were not being utilized or allowed when the 400-hour minimum requirement was established. Now full-time or part-time helpers have easy access to the hourly minimum of 400. Not only is 400 hours not enough, but the hours themselves are easy to manipulate. It's also not reasonable or realistic for your staff to have to monitor these hours. With that said, I believe the minimum hour threshold should be 1,000 hours. I believe this will eliminate people from taking advantage of the system and still keep a window open for young enthusiasts to work side by side with family members and bosses to access this permit. Regarding the permit itself, I think an apprentice permit should be something totally different than a master permit. The apprentice permit should be something that people can earn and use while continuing to work with whoever helped them until their name is called on the waiting list for a full master permit. I think this would make it fair to the people who have been on the list for a while. My suggestion here would be to use the committee in your department to agree on restricted limits or restricted days or both. Another issue regarding the permit would be boat use. If one household were to amass several permits, would the apprentice permit holders be able to use their own boats? I do not think it would be fair to other fishermen for one household to take over a whole flat. I understand it's important to keep fishing families fishing, but I think we need to properly protect the households that are currently fishing as well. We've made a lot of adjustments to commercial fishing, to make commercial fishing a realistic full-time job over the years, and it would hurt to see people take advantage of our regulations to spoil that. So thank you for listening, Tyler Hackenstein. So now that these have all been read into the record, I can actually formally share them with you. I'm assuming it will have to be via a liquid file share. And then I just turn it over to the committee at this point because my throat is tired.
You have any water there, Amy?
Yeah.
I didn't bring it in with me today. It's fine.
Just a quick question.
Go ahead.
If we had further comments, could we just send that to you as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a.
Say them now too, John.
Say mine now, get the hell out of here.
Yeah, this is a discussion that's just continuing to evolve, and any comments that are given in this meeting, I can refer back to in the recording and can add in as pinpoints. So it's not like lost if you don't put it in writing.
All right, well, I thought you said you were gonna push this discussion to the next month.
It's a continued,
All right,
it's a continued discussion until it's not.
then my only comment is I've kind of changed tunes a little bit to the point where I think at this point.
You guys, excuse me.
Sorry.
Okay, so the issue here now is that it's not just via microphones, there's the box that just listens to everybody, and if more than one person is talking at a time, then the recording basically becomes useless, and we need to be able to refer back to it later.
Sorry, so you read my.
Who are you?
I'm JJ Madden, sorry. You read my letter earlier, but I've kind of changed tunes since I wrote that, where at this point, I think the whole program should just be abolished. I understand there's already 6 or 7 kids in it already that have already put time in, and it's only fair to them that they get grandfathered in for sure. But it seems like the town has kind of already solved this issue with the 47 licenses. And, you know, I've heard the argument that all 47 people could go, and that's definitely true. And if they did, I think we'd all have a really hard time earning a living or supplementing our income. So as the program would get older, you know, that 47 would grow larger and larger and larger. And so like right now, 50% of the people use it actively, 50% of 47, 23, 24. If it becomes 60, 80, 100, now that's 23, 24, 40, 50, 60, and then it just becomes worthless. So I think it's more important, you know, for the average family of 4 to have one valuable license than 4 that are not worth anything because they can't earn an income with it, you know. I do also am sympathetic to people who want to pass this down to their kids, like truthfully. I haven't really thought much about it, but maybe something like you could pass it down to next of kin if you wanted to as you got older. Just a suggestion.
Go ahead, Jay.
It was about the research that you did, and I just like to point out again that every town that had some sort of student thing was an open fishery. There was not a single closed fishery
Yeah,
that
was a
that
vote
allows
to me.
that, you know, and adds a license to the closed fishery through this system. And there's probably a legal reason for that to a degree.
One more question.
There, you guys can all go.
Yeah, just a quick question. I'm Scott Corkage. I've been fishing in the air, fishing in the town for 45 years or so. My question to you, Amy, the research that you did, right? On those towns that have an open license, how many people in that town derive their entire income from shellfishing?
That I do not know the answer to because, like
Okay.
I said in the beginning, when I put this query out to the shellfish constables, who would be the people that would
Yeah.
know this information, I got responses back from only 4 towns.
Okay.
So, I don't have like a ready access to that. I can reach out to them individually to
Okay.
try to get that information between now and then, but they have to actually respond to me.
Okay, so my suggestion, if you have a town with an open fishery, and I can go to work there, and I can make an entire living off of shellfishing, and it's an open fishery, people are gonna get right next to me and make that same living until none of us can make a living. That's how it works when you open it up to everybody. You're just gonna wipe it out. So those towns that have those open fisheries, I'd like to know how many bushels that the fishermen bring in. I'd like to know how many fishermen are sustaining their entire income off of it. And I suggest that it's impossible to sustain your income off of an open fishery, because if I'm making a lot, you'll come. So having the lottery open is just not a good idea. I've been here for 50 years. The shellfish comes and goes. We have sets, we have ebbs, we have flows. All the money that comes in and out of the harbor has not changed since I was a child. We have no more shellfish now than we had in the late 70s when I started my job. There's no reason to open up this lottery. As far as the 7 kids that got in now, I'm not concerned. There's no cell phone mount on a clam rake, so they're not coming. I'm not worried about those 7. But realistically, the apprentice program is just a backdoor way to increase the lottery. And as you increase the lottery, we don't increase the fishery. It hasn't changed in 50 years. It's the same amount of shellfish. And then the only noise that we get is when we have a boom. This year that we had the razor clams come in, I bumped into a fisherman that I haven't talked to in 6 or 7 years. I said, wow, how you been? He said, oh, I'm doing great, paraphrasing. He said, I'm doing great. I heard about the razor clams. I said, wow, no kidding. I said, hey, he goes, I had to buy a new motor and a boat and everything. I didn't even have any of my equipment anymore because he hasn't been here since the last boom. And then I talked to somebody that recently received the license. I don't know if it was 2 years, 5 years, but a relatively new lottery license situation. And they came for these razor clams and they said, it's amazing. Figuratively speaking and literally speaking, it's like hitting the lottery. But they never left their regular job. They still went back to, I have no idea, and they still went back to that job and they never quit their job. They came razor clamming every extra second that they had, but they never left their regular job because they know the razor clams are leaving and they can't afford to lose their job. So to go out and have a boom day razor clamming and lose your regular job that's every single day doesn't work. And he's only been in the fishery for a few years. And he knows better than to bet everything on shellfish because it doesn't sustain you throughout the year. So if you open up the fishery, you're just going to bring people in that will dig enough clams so nobody makes money. It's socialism. You will make everyone equally poor.
Amen.
That's it. Everyone will get a little tiny bit and no one will do anything. It'll destroy the fishery. And it happened. And the lottery was put in place because I was present for a boom set of clams in Broad Sound, and 250 people showed up and wiped it out in 4 weeks. And it was a couple of years worth of clams. And then I went and picked through the rubble for another 2 years to make a living. And I didn't have a problem at it because I'm pretty decent. But those clams could have sustained a living for the 40 people that are in the permit holding situation, and we all could have made a living. You wouldn't have to go back to McDonald's for a couple of months. And that's just the way it is. I don't deserve to have my living taken away because other people are screaming no fair. There's a lottery. It is fair. Pay the $5 and get picked for the lottery. Period. Okay, had my say. Have a good day, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for your commentary.
Good job, man.
Could I make a comment?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say,
Don't forget to identify
my name
yourself.
is Tyler Hagenstein, commercial permit holder. It's, we're talking about this now because it's a boom year, so there's a potential, there's some opportunity for this apprentice program, but basically it's like, not every year is a boom year, and the boom years carry you through the lulls. So if those boom years were kind of like lopped off, then the lulls would be that much harder when you're going out and scraping together a basket of this or a basket of that, just to kind of pay your bills. So I'm completely against opening it up or keeping it as is. The 7 people who are in it, fine. I think, Amy, the research that you did shows that no other town with a closed fishery has an apprentice program, and I think that kind of takes a lot of work away from what we have to do here, because it's clear as day. No other towns do it. No other towns with a closed fishery have an apprentice program, so we shouldn't either. That's my opinion. So it saves us a lot of work and discussion.
Thank you.
And that's it.
Anybody else? Well, it looks like people do have a lot to say, and we'll continue this next month.
Yep.
Okay, moving along, 2025-2026 seasonal dragging discussion.
Yeah, so last month I had asked the wild fishery to fill out maps and submit them to me if they had ideas of like where maybe they'd like to see more protection of area from dry cohog dredging, areas that they thought could be sort of like opened up a bit more. It was an interesting exercise in that I got a lot of kind of confusing maps, some ideas, just, so anyway, we'll just go through them, because we have half an hour, so we'll just go right through it. So Connor Rogan submitted some maps to me that may or may not make sense to people, but essentially he's saying like these areas in here shouldn't be restricted to dragging. I will say that anyone that submitted to me a map that suggests that I would allow dragging in a designated relay area, I will not. I'm not going to allow dragging in an area that is propagated by the town and is a designated relay area. Designated relay areas are accessible by foot, bull rake, long rake, so somewhere like, you know, this whole stretch of the Cordwood relay area would be a non-negotiable to me, but he did think there was some area for
I think he's
potential
talking about the
dragging.
narrows.
Yeah,
No, I'm saying like not like in the channel, like his line, you know, it might be close to the shore or whatever, but I think he was talking about like adjacent to the farms.
so
Yeah, like
in
more
the
middle.
channel?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that was probably what his intent was. I don't
Alright,
know.
well, he's not here to tell me, so,
Yeah.
all I have are. So off of Great Bay Road, I believe like his intent was to just go out to the edges of the docks and then allow dragging. This was a pretty contentious area. Those flats are relatively large, and there were a lot of feelings about like keeping historic hand raking areas and lawn raking areas open. So, but just for, you know, your reference, that's a map. So this line here, you just say allow it all throughout here. It can't be allowed in here because there are some small recreational areas here. And then allowing dragging in this area, but I don't know how I feel about that because of the stout razor clam population that's over here. That at least a couple of people make use of commercially. And we do get a lot of, not a lot comparatively to like the rest of town, but we do get in the summer months especially a decent amount of recreational activity right here because that way to water is actually open and people can drive down Crocker Neck.
When does that close?
The gate?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
it
oh, I
does.
thought you meant the area.
After Columbus Day, it doesn't
So it's closed
reopen
now.
again until, I wanna say Memorial Day, but I'm not 100% sure. And then West Bay, his suggestion was to just follow the contour of any existing docks and not allow dragging in those areas, but to open it up in like these sorts of areas. I don't know about, I have feelings about here.
Where's this?
West Bay, off Garrison Point. Garrison Point's right
That's
there.
West Bay? Yeah.
Yeah, Joe's Grant is over here. This is like the Hemela's aquaculture site, and then Kevin Flaherty and Cape Cod Oyster over here. So I don't know how I feel about opening up necessarily this area here because we do see a decent amount of recreational activity there. In addition to like it's a decent summer fishing spot for commercial guys that are just going out by hand. Corey had suggestions for East Bay. East Bay would be off the table this year regardless because we did contaminated relays from the Centerville River into there last year. So I treat the whole bay as a relay area if we have relayed to it, even though it's not designated. I believe we had discussed that kind of ad nauseum before, but this is an area, as he describes, Would not open the area west of the open line. The front channel has good bottom cleaned for bull rake. Also directly west of the closure line, I usually walk out on the flat south of the deep trench, slightly mucky, but tons of top neck and seed necks on the sandbar. So again, it's sort of like looking to better protect areas that people are either hand raking or long raking. Eric Hildreth doesn't want to see dredging in any of the bays. He didn't really put instructions on here, but I'm assuming he doesn't want any dragging here in Lewis Bay. He also is not here to explain. No to all of Shoestring and Papanesset Bay. No to all of North Bay, the Marston's Mills River. No to all of East Bay. I asked for these commentaries, so I'm going through them. I don't think he didn't write anything on Katuitt Bay, but essentially he's not a fan of the quahog dry dredging in any of our embayments. And this is just alphabetical, so it wasn't intended to do this way, but Henry and Shelley Senzali also largely do not want to see any dredging in any of our embayments. And Henry, you are here. Is there any additional commentary that you'd like to provide, or you still just don't want to see it at all?
I just think that Cohoggan in those bays, it's a struggling resource, and back in the late '90s, that North Bay, for example, was paved opening day, November 1st. You'd see 20 guys out there fishing. Now these days, it's so depleted that you'd be lucky if you see 1 or 2 guys on opening day. And if cultivating the ground and turning it over creates more seed set, then that place should be thriving, because we hammered that place in the late '90s, and since then it's just been a struggling resource.
And that's not to mention the sponge takeover. That's a disaster.
You're here, so I'm gonna let you walk yourself
Yeah,
through
so I
the
just
maps.
kind of wanted to, there's a flat that kind of sticks out on the west side that's pretty shallow that people like to go on, so I just draw that line and kind of include that more or less.
And have this strip here
Like
just
just
be
go along
where-
the channel and then cut back in. Nothing to do anything there. Kind of, well, for Joe's Grant, kind of outline how Joe's Grant is kind of shaped, and maybe it goes out a little bit further than what was there, but in some spots it's a little bit closer to shore than it was there, and kind of just demonstrated too, kind of toe areas that with those circular motions, and then Garrison Point right here, I suggested kind of marking off from the bottom right of the farm, just Les Hemela's farm, the bottom right corner, like across, and then the buoy on the north right's corner going up to maybe kind of like what I drew out to protect Garrison Point. And then I asked to dredge around, the farms on the south side, on either side. And the Superior River, I don't think was in any of these maps, maybe, but
It should be on
It's a lot, right?
Katuitt Bay map.
It's like cut in half.
It is cut in half on the maps,
It's
yeah. Yeah, there's this portion of it here, which is open year round, and then on the Katuitt Bay map, it shows the portion of it that's conditionally approved and subject to seasonal water quality closure, in addition to a small portion that attaches to that open year round area.
and then in Lewis Bay, wherever, you guys mark off wherever the eelgrass is, but and just make it a smaller, no dredging area. And then I don't think I put anything in Pompanesset. And then, so kind of what Connor did, or was more trying to maybe do, was like a line that goes along the channel that excludes dredging in the relay area.
So just better defining the
Yeah,
relay area.
like, but in that space in between the farms where it's a deep channel, and if you go down, I think I might have did something, oh yeah, just around those, like the bowl over there down in the south corner and, sorry, southwest corner, kinda, and, just areas that are out, farther out off the beach. Which one's this? Oh yeah, then that's like just the narrows in between, outside the docks and outside the farms, and then same as that area that Connor highlighted, just out past the docks on what's that called? South Bay Road?
Wait, no, Great Bay Road.
Yeah. And in general, just outside the docks in a lot of areas that are just easy to, like in the North Bay area, how you already have that.
Joe?
Hello.
Hi. You wanna walk us through?
Sure, I don't have my glasses, what map am I looking at?
You are
Is
looking
that-
at the Marston's Mills River.
Okay. I think in general, most of the maps that I marked, I tried to highlight what were more of the traditional hand raking spots. It's I'm not so much with the river, but with the other bays, it's mostly just increasing the no dredging zones to include more of the hard bottom.
And this sort of lines up with what Corey had submitted for East Bay suggestion.
In a couple spots, it included some hard bottom in the channels, like the channel west of the clothesline in East Bay.
Yep.
In the Mills River, that was always traditionally a long pulling area. In time, who knows? I mean, I think we could say that dredging in the river absolutely cleaned it up. It absolutely promoted seed growth, but I think the original goal was to restore it to the way it used to be years ago, where multiple hand rakers would get in there every opening and work the bottom. So I think, like Hank said, there's been degradation in all the bays. I'm not convinced that the dredge is the answer to turn everything around. I think there's a lot of other variables that are the real reason. It's just not as productive as it used to be, and I think it's important to protect the little nooks and crannies of the flats that stick out from the no dredging zones.
Okay.
Just to give the hand rakers the continued access to it, because I think the problem is when you start dredging an area, it really does become almost unrakeable. Whether it's short pulling or long pulling, the bottom is altered
For a period of time.
and it's the trenches, the width of the knife leaves a trench that stays there in the bottom for literally weeks. And I think you've heard a few guys kind of complaining about, tripping on them and stuff like that. I don't think there's a safety issue. I think that's a little overboard, but I do think actually feasibly raking it with a hand rake is an issue.
Okay. JJ, do you want to walk us through your maps, please?
Yeah, most of them, I just kind of similar to what Connor had. I just had some of the lines. It just seems like a lot of the lines are just, very angular, where maybe they can contour to the shore a little better.
Okay.
And then also between some of the grants in some of the bays.
So that's Katuitt Bay.
Yeah.
Says the main idea in all bays is to, the buffer zone closed to dredging should just be set distance from the shoreline. It would be easier to follow the rules that way. Also, corners like such would not be inaccessible to dredging and hand raking.
Yeah, I don't mean so much there in East Bay, but in some of the other ones.
Oh, so it was just sort of like a general
General,
comment?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Ines, you didn't have
No,
any
nothing.
suggestions?
I had nothing on that one too.
Okay. Well, you know, if you submit it to me, then I add it to things. North Bay, it looks like you kind of took the same mentality, like just keeping it basically like to the ends of the docks.
Yeah.
I will tell you, even boating through here is very challenging. I
Yeah.
don't know that you'd be able to get a drag in there at all. It's a great place to paddle, and it's a good place to catch blue crab. So again, so allow dredging sort of like in those channels that exist, not really channels, but like deeper areas between the aquaculture sites, and allow it in here, but keep to the docks. Perhaps a buffer zone 50 yards from the shore. And this is where, you know, a lot, like in these no drag maps, they don't clearly show where the designated relay areas are, like they're covered by that layer. But there's a designated relay area here.
Okay.
And last but not least, Mr. Hamill. So, end of docks, opens Pewit River, keep pirates closed, it's a sanctuary, protect flat and fronted pirates, lots of short raking area, rework the narrows area. What do you mean when you
Just the
say?
same, kind of like just that middle,
Like what?
yeah, just however,
JJJ.
I don't know, really, even the, like what's up with the grant? Do they own in the middle of the channel too? Is that how that
As long as
goes?
you're off the grant.
Yeah.
So I don't know what else.
So it's unusable as part of that aquaculture site, but he's licensed for aquaculture.
So we'd
in
have to
this
stop,
entire
obviously the
area.
boundary would have to be at the corner of that grant then, and
Mhm,
so, okay,
yeah,
yeah, so
yeah.
that's just what I don't,
Yeah.
I look at that and go, how can the grant be in the middle of the channel, but obviously.
Well,
the grant's in
because
the
it
middle.
was
Long time ago.
permitted
Yeah.
back in like
So-
the, I don't know,
It's like the second oldest one.
1800, late
yeah.
1800s.
Mhm.
Yeah, we didn't have probably like as many recreational boats back then. Protect steamers in, where are we, in East Bay? Where are we?
Yeah, I would agree
Yeah.
with that flat and stuff, kinda, I guess.
Okay. No dredging on relayers, which we had agreed to.
And the same thing out front, just kinda question mark with the eelgrass and the,
Mhm.
just the
Yeah,
kinda,
no dragging there.
yeah, maybe extend that point out, again, it's good bottom all the way to the point, all the way to the end of that docks for
Yeah.
when that does become viable, it's just again, kinda to JJ's point, just kinda making a contour.
Something that's easy.
Yeah, like here's the
Easier
point,
to
here's the thing,
enforce
yeah, not just
Without
like,
having to put 8 million buoys out
Yeah.
everywhere.
it's hard enough to get your phone out and then look at the map or the interactive map and.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where the end of docks thing comes from too, whatever that,
It's
or
something you
buffer
can
off
see
of-
from land easily.
Yes.
Yeah.
that's just
Um,
kind of, again,
Rotational plan for Marston's Mills Rivers. Can you explain to me what you mean by that?
whether it's letting it in there every year, as we had spoken briefly too, or the short rakers in, however.
I have my piece.
however
of
all
my,
that-
my thoughts on it.
However, just a workable, however it needs to work with, I mean, I short rake, I'm looking to get into the dredging. I don't wanna go destroy my flat that I wanna go short rake on in summertime, in the wintertime, so it's not very conducive for me to do that, you know? So however that looks. Same thing, kind of bring that out a little bit, again,
maybe not in the channel, but fatten
Yeah,
that southern edge up off of Fox Island Drive or whatever.
okay.
Um,
You think it should be open in the cow yard?
I don't know, it was just a
That's not even
question.
the cow yard.
Huh?
That's not even the cow yard.
That's.
The cow yard's that little pond that's to the left, like that actually doesn't even,
There?
I think so, yeah.
No,
The
no,
backside of
This
that
is-
barn?
No, that's the
Like-
first cove off of Point Isabella, the inside of Point Isabella Point. Yeah. Yeah,
There?
yeah, that's it. It doesn't really show on the map.
Crazy.
Yeah, you know, like that's just the other side of Point Isabella when you go, you know,
Oh yeah, you know what? Yeah. you're
that like cove, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So we work the Narrows area.
Yeah, then my only thought with the
Okay.
circled one is just a deep channel, I don't even think there's anything in there, but just that back side where that dock, where I have a question mark in the circle, yeah, it's just, yeah, I don't even think it's,
Yeah.
you can just get rid of that circle, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
And same thing, following pretty much it looks like what. Again, just kind of cleaning up the lines, protecting that when they come down. Again, point to point situation or whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
And same thing, fattening up the
Yeah, protecting
areas. Yeah, I
Joe's
mean,
grant. Yeah.
Jake's idea was good too, going to that southern side, I agree with that. It's good all the way between shoreline and the grant.
It's pretty shallow between the grant and the shoreline
You can
to
get to
dredge.
it.
You know what I mean?
And same thing with the Sepuit. I think I had that on the bottom, right there. West Bay should get it. Yeah, I think I did it on both of them. And same thing, just dock, what that means.
Basically, like
Yeah,
in the
just,
channel.
yeah,
Yeah.
with that,
Okay.
with the general understanding that we have parameters to follow, like free move buffer.
Okay. So after looking at the maps and after talking to a number of you, again, these are just my comments. Try not to eat me alive. It's been a long day. So yeah, still a hard no on dredging in designated relay areas. Like I said, I wasn't able to meet with GIS to sort of like create that kind of a layered map. But then again, I was given such a diversity of maps that I don't think we would have been able to give it in the time given anyway. Hard no on dredging in East Bay when a contaminated relay took place the season before. Conditionally approved areas, allow dredging for the last month that it's open, pending that it be no later than April 30th, because we're not going to allow dredging May 1st to whenever we decide to open it up again. But for conditionally approved areas, continue use of buoys to mark off historic long rake areas and ensure hand rake areas are protected on larger flats. Examples of this would be in Marston's Mills River, North Bay, and the Sepuit River, where dragging would be allowed potentially from April 1st to April 30th while those areas are in open status, while still marking off those areas that we want to ensure we protect and have like a well-known boundary. In areas that are open year-round, allow a slightly larger window, use buoys to mark off historic long rake areas and ensure hand rake areas are protected on larger flats. Examples of this are West Bay, Katuitt Bay, and a portion of the Sepuit River that's open year-round versus the portion of it that is conditionally approved. Allow dredging from March 1st to April 30th, so an additional month because those areas are larger, but still expanding buoys in areas where we know there's a lot of conflict and where we want to protect those historic uses. Allow dredging in all existing channels in open status on the south side that are slated to be dredged over the comprehensive dredge plan pending they are in open status at the time. I'll look into relay options for conditionally approved areas in closed status such as the Central River and prohibited areas like Bumps River that are in the plan, i.e. portions of Centerville and Bumps River. These include the East Bay entrance approach inlet and embayment channels, the Katuitt Bay entrance and embayment channels, the West Bay outer approach and inlet entrance channels, the West Bay inner entrance embayment channel, so all existing channels that are slated to, through the comprehensive dredge plan, be dredged over the course of however many years it takes to get all that rolling. West Bay spur channel, North Bay narrows channel, street channel, Sepuit River channel, and the Prince Cove entrance channel, Marina Basin and channel. So those were all of the areas on the south side that are slated to be a part of this project whenever it does end up getting underway.
Did they have a quasi order of the dredging for the project? I can't remember when looking at that.
I can look back at it. I think they had an idea, I know they had an idea of when, like, I think the first ones that are coming up are West Bay.
So that would be something
And I
to
think the
entertain,
Sepuit River.
would be to try to get our hands on.
Areas that are gonna be
Which is
dredged
one,
and anything
yeah.
that's in there will just be, you know, we're working with DPW to try establish some sort of mitigation strategy, but having those areas open to machinery that can work it before any of that even happens isn't a bad idea.
Yeah.
So anyway, those are my thoughts as of this moment in time.
I got a question on the,
Go ahead.
where, out there gonna be dredging, where are they dumping all this sponges and shack and crap? Where, they got a designated area to do this, they're gonna,
So
where- that's the problem, cause a
There
lot of
are a
it's going
couple
back
of
in.
known, like, massive deposition areas and some mooring areas that are like just completely ruined. You'd have to clean the whole area out for, yeah.
Yeah, cause I tried my rig,
where they're gonna dig it out.
I tried my rig in, West Bay, down past the grants as you go through. And I said, it looks nice clean bottom, let me check this out. I put my rake in there, you could have dug till China. The stuff is so thick with shack, it's just unbelievable, because that's been dumping stuff forever. And I just stayed the hell out of there. And even if you, even off of Joe's grant, and the dredging that has been going on there, has turned that place into the Grand Canyon. You gotta go out there in a boat on a quiet flat, calm day at low tide, and look at the canyons in there from dredging, right on Joe's grant. I've seen them in there where they don't belong.
There's only been one season in which
It
use
doesn't,
of a dry drag has even been allowed, and it was for a very short period of time.
it don't take long when you're there all day, every single day, just beating that thing to death. And that's what's been happening. And to actually say that you're gonna monitor these people from not going where they're not supposed to go, I don't believe it, because I've seen it happen even when it was supposed to be monitored. They go right up in the shallows at high tide and have at it. No one's around to watch them, and they'll do whatever they want, because no one's to see them and fish right till dark and into dark. I've seen them in the dark coming through there.
I will
So
say
that,
you know,
I just don't like it. If you're gonna dredge, give them a dredging area that is designated in the channels. And for West Bay, for one, the whole place is a giant flat. West Bay, the only deep place is in the channel. So you go outside the channel, you're going to where we can walk. And there's some areas in there, you can walk from the beach right out to the damn channel. And you're gonna have those dredges going back and forth 50 feet. Now you won't be able to get to that spot because you gotta go over all these canyons. And it's gonna happen. It's already happened, and honesty is not the best policy when it comes to these with the dredges. I've seen them abusing the situation, and it's gonna continue because you can't keep an eye on it. There's just no way. There's no way.
in my defense,
Yep.
as an enforcement agent of many resources for the past 20 years, you can't keep eyes on everything at all of the time. And people who are going to follow the rules are going to follow the rules, and people who are not going to follow the rules are not going to follow the rules across the board. I really cannot commit to a couple of months of open to dry cohog dredging causing the extreme detriment that you're explaining to me in West Bay.
Oh, not only that, what they don't break up, they crush. You know, there's a lot of busted up stuff. You go out there, and if you ever take the time, you see watch the dredge marks. There's busted stuff everywhere. They never take the busted stuff away. They throw the busted stuff back in the water because you can't sell the busted stuff. At least with a rake, you can dig around and shake them out. With that dredge, it's just chomping away. Anything in its way that isn't small enough is going to get busted. And then when you dump the stuff out, where are you going to dump it? It was supposed to be in a dumpster when the first program started out. It was supposed to be, the whole program was started to clean out the deep part of the rivers to remove the sponge and debris. And then suddenly, you opened up that door, and then here we go. Now we're gonna go further and further, and now you get less and less monitoring of these situations. It's just like that dock we watched on the screen there with the big pier going across. You let that open up, and guess what? Everybody's gonna wanna do it. And then that's what's gonna happen here. They're gonna abuse the situation when no one's around, and they're gonna do it. And it's gonna destroy the bottom.
So you think even if an area is restricted to 1 month of the year, that's going to continue happening?
Well, give them a designated area. For instance, the Narrows up at Point Isabella. Okay, you guys wanna dredge? Get in there and stay there and clean it out. Then monitor it. Okay, the next spot we want you guys to go and dredge and clean up, that's where you go.
So
That way you know where they are. Because if you give them a carte blanche to all the bays, you don't know what the hell they're doing.
So you're saying not only restrict the amount of time allowed, but work on a rotational plan like Tim had suggested.
Have a designated attack plan. You did the river. You said do the river, stay on that river, get it done. You got that done? Okay, let's move over to Point Isabella. Let's clean out that Narrows and that stuff along there. Okay, you're done with that? Let's go over to here and do that. But don't give them free run to go everywhere because you can't keep an eye on them.
Okay.
I mean, I'm all for dredging, but it has to be done in a way that is controlled and not let loose. Because I've watched the let loose and it's not good.
Understood. So essentially, if I were to come back next month with maps that sort of integrate all of these various thoughts on like where it can exist, where it can't exist, including time of year restrictions, bearing in mind that even though I'll have maps of all areas, if I then also look at the comprehensive dredge plan, and if there is a timeline for those areas, and we do those areas on a rotational basis, based on order of appearance for when they will be dredged in the comprehensive dredge plan, would that please the committee?
I'd just like to make a comment real quick about the claims of us going in the closed areas. I mean, you can call Amy and have them come out and, show them, because.
I didn't mention your name, but so
No, I mean, but I'm the only one that was in West Bay, and you're saying that I was tearing up Joe's grant.
Yourself.
You have a video
You put
in the
a
open
video on
area.
YouTube, yeah, of you with your big cage with all kinds of little necks and stuff right on Joe's grant. Right on it, man.
And it was
Right
not
on it, where you don't
it
belong.
was not on Joe's grant.
Oh, no, really, sure.
It wasn't.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, I'm not gonna address like potential violations that occurred over a year ago. So essentially what I'm offering to bring back next month are, and if anybody else has any other suggestions for where you think dredging can occur, can't occur, I will try to get a list of like, this is our intended timeline for like who goes first, second, third, whatever, in the 10-year plan. Understanding that we have done the Mills River. It has had a couple of years off at this point, and then just come back with a revised maps, revised time of year restrictions, and then a timeline for if we were to target one area at a time, what year that would fall in, essentially.
Hyper-focused timeline, if you will.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else? Okay, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
I would just want to say,
Okay.
could we do multiple areas at once?
So I think it probably would be like by bay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Body, like,
Just instead of like constricting us to a very small area.
Yeah, I think it would be like
West Bay.
like you do Marston's Mills River this year, you do Katuitt Bay this year, you do North Bay this year.
What about
you
the
do
Superior
West
River, you
Bay
think?
this year, you do the Superior River this year, because of the connectivity between, because it's like own entity connecting two bays, so I would see it as separate, similar to the Marston's Mills River.
You wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if you're gonna open up, if you're gonna do, rotating spots, you gotta do more than one, that we just talked about it. So many many open spots.
How many dredge boats have we got?
Maybe 5. There's potentially 47. But I think 5.
47.
Too soon?
Yeah, how many guys do we have that are dredging?
Maybe 5. Yeah.
And
How many guys are short raking?
I've never seen many people. Yeah, that's short rake, yeah.
That one, Matt Colva short rakes. Jason does. Yeah,
Corey does.
Corey does.
I do, so, too.
Sometimes, yeah.
I see Eric on rig
Yeah.
when he's around.
He's in Florida,
Not yet.
he's a sandwich resident.
Bull rake, I bull raked, Walter bull raked, I bull raked the 1 year there, and over in West Bay, up on that flat thing, that up in that corner there.
I-
Bull raked there for years.
I will warn, unlike the Conservation Commission, which we start our meeting at this time and it goes till it goes, we are a 6 to 8 committee. So I think we need a motion.
I will make a motion to adjourn this meeting. And,
I'll third that.
Second, okay, all in favor?
aye.
Okay, drive safely.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah.
Aye.